Greetings from Malaga in Spain, where I'm here to look at the Opel Grandland GSE. And here's the thing, Opel are not the first brand, or Vauxhall if you're watching this in the UK, who've taken an iconic three letters from their heritage. Volkswagen will probably do it with the GTI any day soon and applied it to an electrified version of one of their cars. And they're doing it with a few of their cars, including the Astra, which will come later on in this year, and the Grandland, which is now available. Think of it like an all options box ticked type of vehicle, because that's what the GSE is. I knew my German in secondary school would come in handy one day, so Grand Sport Einspritzung, which means Grand Sport Electric. Well, Grand Sport Injection in direct translation, but Grand Sport Electric is what they're going for with GSE. And do you remember the times when, people would get a panel repaired in a car and they didn't have the money to get it sprayed, and you'd have cars with different colour tones? You either think that, or you think, okay, it's a GSE because it's got splashes of black going on everywhere, black on the badges, GSE stitching on the seats. It has every extra you can think of, like radar cruise, blind spot, electric tailgate. Doesn't have a glass roof though, but it has all the different trim specs that you'd want. And also under the bonnet, you've got petrol and battery working in tandem if you charge the car. It's a just over 14 kilowatt hour battery, and it will mean a grand total of 295 brake horsepower, which in fairness is no slouch. You got power going to the front axle and the rear axle, making it all-wheel drive, so plenty of grip. And trust me, I've tested it on some of the scariest Spanish crazy roads I've ever driven on, getting up to our scenic spot today. Anyway, welcome to Nobby on Cars, welcome to Spain, and let's have a little look around. So the range will get you about 60 kilometres on full battery mode. Obviously, if you drive up hills on that, or you're on a motorway, that won't last quite as long. Because it's a plug-in hybrid, you have charging port on this size. That'll take your Type 2 cable, your AC charging, and you can charge in a couple of hours if you're using a public on-street charger, which is handy because it hasn't got a huge battery, but it means you get that 60 kilometres back pretty quickly. Then on the back again, because it's the GSE version, you have Grandland in black lettering. The boot, let me see, have I? The last time I did a video with a Grandland, like 2 Grandlands ago, I couldn't get the boot to work, and people made an awful mockery. Well, I made a mockery of myself, but you know what I mean. I want to find out, however, have I, as a car reviewer, never mind you watching, figured out how to do this whole boot thing. So let me just see if it... Yes! Come on! Where were you 3 years ago? Although nearly 200,000 people have watched that video. Maybe that's because I'm an idiot. Boot is still decent. Plenty of space in it. You'll fit the usual things that families want to fit into a car. Like, you won't fit a load of bikes and a load of things at the same time, but you can drop the seats and you can maybe fit a couple of smaller kids' bikes in here. A little bit of storage down here. Obviously, batteries go into the floor and PHEVs generally underneath the boot, and that can compromise on your boot size. And again, it's an electric tailgate, so that works. I like it. Big black boot spoiler over the back of the car as well. Just going to take a little look at the rear space for your rear passengers, those family members you love so much. And there's a bit of a compromise going on. So granted, this passenger seat anyway, remember in a left-hand drive, is quite far back, and it really is. I could probably tilt it a bit just to be fair here. It's okay, like, you're just not spoiled for room here. You've got to raise this armrest or headrest back up just to give you a bit more neck support. There's an armrest and there's no charging in there. There's a ski hatch access, which is always handy. But yeah, it's tight, it's kind of cramped back here, and the way this seat's cut out don't really help. Keyless entry on the GSE version of the car. Don't the rear vents look a little bit like Iron Man's plastic pals or something? You've got thigh support on the back of the seats. Opel's AGR seats, which are medically approved, supportive back seats that do, in fairness, give you lovely support if you were considering this car for longer journeys. It's not really any different. I'd love even a GSE badge on the steering wheel, but there isn't one, or maybe across the glove box. So really, you could be just sitting in a standard Grandland up front. Still have the same easy to use gear shifter. You can flick between your drive modes, sport, hybrid and electric if you have enough charge. Still physical buttons for your climate control, heated steering wheel, good clear layout, Android and CarPlay, Android Auto, but you do have to plug in the cable to make that work. And you'll get their own nav, which is fine, but you know, generally I think people like to use Waze or whatever you like yourself to control whatever you're familiar with. Space for bottles of water. It's about 14 degrees in Spain today, by the way, so it's not that hot, in case you're going, oh, look at you. Don't say that now that I've said it. There's wireless charging here and in the armrest, so that is good. And these seats really are like a great support on them, nice bolsters on the side. Everything is good. If you do want to support this channel, by the way, just hit up buymeacoffee.com/nobbyonCars. Give us a fiver. You know, it's a fully independent channel. All this stuff that you see is in my own time. And yeah, if you'd like to help, buymeacoffee.com/nobbyonCars. So the way the engine works is you have a 200 brake horsepower petrol 1.6 engine, and then to make up the difference to get you to 300 brake horsepower, you have the battery motor that powers the front and rear axles. And it means there's always enough power in this car. Even 200 brake horsepower is fine. The transition from just pure electric to petrol isn't always the smoothest. Sometimes it's not as noticeable perhaps in this car, but certainly in the Astra that we'll get later on in the year, the bite point on the brake between normal friction brakes and the regen braking isn't the smoothest. So when you're braking, you get this kind of a jerk at the very end when you're really trying to come to a stop, because the car gets confused into thinking, do you want full-on brakes or just regen braking? And they need to fix that, but I can't say it's as noticeable in the Grandland that I'm driving today. Even in terms of handling, it's all right. Like you know, these cars aren't ever set up with kind of driving enjoyment in mind, but anything else is a bonus in my opinion. So, you know, it's not the worst car in terms of a crossover to be behind of. It goes into twisties, and make no mistake, these are twisties very, very well. The steering is light, so it's kind of set up well for city driving. They also claim you might get 70 kilometers out of the battery in city driving, but like back home in Ireland, I'm driving a Citroen C5 Aircross this week, and they're all good cars. They'll all do what you and your family need them to do, but there's just so much choice there. So it's kind of a case of just really spending a lot of time going to different garages and seeing, you know, little things. What do you prefer with this versus that? I'd nearly do a pros and cons list, because they're just all very alike in what they do, but they all have their own little subtle differences. And I suppose that's where, at least, it's such an interesting segment in terms of there's so much choice. Even going into the bend there, like the tyres are reasonably warmed up at this stage. It's 15 degrees, but there's great levels of grip in the car. They're really, you know, really great levels. The A-pillars are a little bit big, I will say that, especially on these Spanish roads. So sometimes you're coming around the bend. They don't always kind of like you to know exactly what you're pulling out into. Have you noticed that if you're ever driving in Spain? But look, it's great to see the GSE badge. I mean, the cars that it went on before, like, you'd probably have to ask your outfit about what they were. I think you'll always have the purists getting a little bit upset, but mark my word, you will see the day that Volkswagen will put GTI on something electric, and there will be uproar. Well, it's going to happen. It just has to happen. It's just where the automotive industry is going, and has to go for the moment anyway. So look, it's a really well-spec'd car. It's just also a really expensive car at $59,995. And the incoming Astra, which will also have a PHEV battery, a little bit smaller battery actually, will start at 52 grand. And for a hatch that has 225 brake horsepower but really doesn't feel that quick, like, we're asking lots of money of people here. Like, there's no doubt this is not just an Opel thing. Cars in Ireland are getting so expensive. And I read the other day, 70% of people looking at a new car are considering electric. But does that mean like mild hybrids? Does it mean plug-in hybrid? Where are they going with that stat? Because I don't think 70% of people are thinking about an electric car, full electric car anyway. Where you really do notice the torque, it has plenty of it, is when you're going uphill. And I know I'm in Spain here, but if your journey back in Ireland involves uphill driving and anything like that, it really does have tons of power to surge you up the hill, and you're never, as I said, stuck for grip. There is endless amounts of it, really. Like, little bit of oversteer there, but sure, look, who's watching? Anyway, it's time for a little sum up of my thoughts of the Grandland GSE here from Malaga in lovely Spain. Look at that view. Like, look at that. So the crack with Opel is, and it's the bigger group that own them, Opel will be fully electric by 2028, and look, their PHEVs are solid. They've kind of proven themselves, and across the other brands that you'll find this engine and those batteries in. So it's kind of just like, come on, like, where's the full-on electric Grandland? Because then you have people's attention. And the price of this car is $59,995, and that does not include delivery. So this is an expensive car, and you have to ask yourself, would I put up that much money for something that will really do the same job as a normal Grandland or something else, compromise a bit of boot space in the process? I'm not sure. I think just stick to the normal Grandland and you'll be fine. Bit of electric range is nice, but I think there'd be something fully electric of this size from Opel before you know it. And that would probably make me just wait. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.